Listen, they're lying to you again. The brutal truth is this: when a politician suddenly starts talking about cutting your property taxes, it's not a gift, it's a trap. It is the financial equivalent of a flashbang grenade tossed into your living room. They want you blinded by the pretty flash of a tax cut so you don't see the real danger. Your house is on fire. While you're celebrating a few $100s in your pocket, the entire foundation of your wealth, your home equity, is turning to ash. Think about it. The average mortgaged homeowner in America lost about $9,200 in equity in the last year alone. That one line item completely wipes out any meager tax rebate they could possibly offer. And it's getting worse. The housing market is in the middle of a seismic shift. Home sales have plummeted to their lowest level in 30 years. The party is over, but the media and the politicians will keep telling you it's just a cooling off, a normalization. That's the biggest lie of all. The real reason states are suddenly so interested in tax reform isn't generosity, it's panic. They are trying to put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Today, we're driving straight into the storm to show you the truth. This is 10 states quietly abolishing property taxes as the housing bubble pops. And stick around for number 1. It's a place where Mother Nature and terrible policy have created a perfect storm, a true ground zero for the next housing collapse. This isn't clickbait, this is a survival guide. If this is the kind of unfiltered truth you're looking for, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. All right, let's hit the road. Number 10, Wyoming. All right, our first stop is big, empty Wyoming, the land of wide open spaces and even wider economic gambles. They're pushing hard for a ballot initiative in 2026 to slash residential property taxes by a shocking 50%. Sounds great, right? A gift from your local politicians. Don't be fooled. It's a magic trick, a distraction. Look at the numbers. Wyoming already boasts some of the lowest property taxes in the nation, with an average effective rate of just 0.58%. The average home value is around $366,000, up 5.2% in the last year. On the surface, it looks stable, but that stability is built on quicksand. So, what's the real story? Why the sudden generosity? Because Wyoming's entire economy is strapped to a rocket fueled by fossil fuels. The state is the nation's largest coal producer. Mineral royalties and severance taxes provide a huge chunk of state revenue. When energy prices are high, the state is flush with cash and everyone feels rich. But when the boom goes bust, and it always does, the jobs evaporate and so does your home's value. Counties dependent on energy are already seeing population declines. This tax cut isn't a strategy, it's a bribe. They're using the profits from the last boom to make you forget that your financial future is tied to the whims of global energy markets. It's the friend who buys a round of drinks with his paycheck, knowing full well he's getting laid off on Monday. The verdict is simple. Wyoming isn't selling you a home, it's selling you a commodity, a very, very risky one. So, let me ask you this, and be honest in the comments. Are you willing to gamble your family's biggest asset on the price of coal and oil? Number 9, Nebraska. Leaving the empty mountains, you cross into the vast, quiet plains of Nebraska. And the first thing you notice is the tax bill. It's huge. Nebraska has the 9th highest effective property tax rate in the United States, a whopping 1.54%. On a modest home, you're paying a premium. So naturally, politicians are scrambling. There are multiple ballot initiatives aiming for 2026, including one that proposes to completely eliminate state property, income, and inheritance taxes altogether. They're selling it as a revolution, a new era of freedom for the taxpayer. But here's the ugly secret they don't want you to talk about. It's not a revolution, it's a funeral. They're dressing up a corpse. The real sickness in Nebraska isn't high taxes, it's a demographic time bomb. Since 2010, a staggering 69 out of Nebraska's 93 counties have actually lost population. A net loss of thousands of people are leaving the state every single year. And who is leaving? The young, the educated, and the earners. The state is experiencing a persistent brain drain of college-educated residents. This isn't a tax cut, it's a desperate marketing ploy. They're trying to lure new blood into a state the next generation has already abandoned. It's like a diner that's losing all its customers, so the owner decides to offer free coffee, hoping no one notices the kitchen is empty and the chef left town years ago. Buying a home here is like buying into a company whose entire workforce is 2 years from retirement with no replacements lined up. The house might be cheap, but you're paying for a front row seat to a slow, quiet economic collapse. So, let me know in the comments, would you move to a state with 0 property taxes if it meant your neighbors would be ghosts in 10 years? Number 8, Pennsylvania. Cruising east, you trade open plains for the gritty, tired towns of the Rust Belt. Welcome to Pennsylvania, where they've been arguing about how to kill the property tax since before the internet was invented. Seriously. Multiple bills like Senate Bill 76 and House Bill 13 are on the table, constantly reintroduced, promising total elimination. It's the state's favorite political soap opera, and you can see why. Pennsylvania has a crushing average effective property tax rate of 1.41%, way above the national average. But that's where the simple story ends. This isn't a bold new idea. It's a political hamster wheel designed to keep you distracted from the fact that the state's economic engine is rusting out. Let's be brutal. The state's overall infrastructure earns a grade of C-, with some of the oldest systems in the country. Pennsylvania has the second highest number of bridges in poor condition in the entire nation. Meanwhile, the population is stagnating. From 2020 to 2025, the state experienced a net decline of over 40,000 residents, with rural areas shrinking the fastest. And the population is old. The median age is 40.8, significantly higher than the national average. They aren't trying to save you money, they're trying to hide a state that's slowly crumbling. Think about the guy in a former steel town living in a house his grandfather bought. The factory is gone, the young people have left, the roads are falling apart, but his property tax bill keeps climbing. That tax bill is the only thing in town that's growing. Pennsylvania is a zombie economy. The politicians keep it moving with the empty promise of tax cuts, hoping you won't notice it died 20 years ago. So, my question to you is this: at what point does a property tax stop being a civic contribution and start feeling like a subscription fee for a service that's no longer being provided? Let me know. Number 7, North Dakota. You escape the Rust Belt's slow decay and head west into the high-stakes gambling parlor that is North Dakota. Governor Kelly Armstrong is pushing a plan to put the state on a path to 0 for residential property taxes, eventually wiping them out entirely. It's an aggressive pitch, fueled by the state's enormous oil wealth. But this isn't a gift, it's bait. They want you to forget one critical, terrifying fact. Your home's value here isn't tied to the school district or the curb appeal. It's tied directly to the price of a barrel of oil. Oil and gas taxes have accounted for more than 50% of the state's local tax collections over the past decade. When oil is booming, the state is drowning in cash. When it busts, the entire economy goes with it. Forecasts are already predicting a downward shift, with some expecting oil to drop significantly by late 2026. Think about the last major boom and bust. People flocked to the Bakken Shale, snapping up houses at wildly inflated prices. Then the market turned, jobs vanished, and those same homes became worthless overnight. This property tax promise is a cynical attempt to lure in a new wave of buyers at the top of the cycle. The median home price is already up 7.7% year over year. They're using the profits from this current boom to blind you to the inevitable crash that always follows. It's a shell game, and your home equity is the P. Buying a house in North Dakota isn't real estate, it's day trading, and you're the last one to get the memo. So tell me, is a tax cut worth it if you have to check global oil futures every morning just to see if you're still solvent? Let me know your thoughts. Number 6, Michigan. Pulling out of the oil patch, you drive into the heartland. Michigan, home of the Great Lakes and an economy built on a single, monstrously large industry. Officials are floating a ballot initiative for 2026 that could completely prohibit property taxes. A radical move, a desperate move. Why? Because they're trying to apply a fresh coat of paint to a rusting hulk. The numbers tell a story of stagnation. Michigan's population growth has been slow, and by 2026, the state is expected to have more residents over 65 than under 18. The young are leaving, and the population that remains is getting older. The median age is already 44 years. While the median home prices climb to around $267,000, job growth is expected to decelerate significantly through 2026. What's the real sickness here? Detroit may be the motor city, but the engine is sputtering. The entire state's fortune is still tied to the big three automakers. Projections show the Detroit 3's market share will continue to shrink, falling to 32.7% in 2026, down from 36.1% in 2023. Tariffs and economic headwinds are expected to reduce employment in transportation equipment manufacturing by hundreds of jobs by 2026. They're offering you a tax cut with one hand while the other hand is quietly dismantling the very industry your job depends on. It's the illusion of prosperity. Think of the guy working on the assembly line in a suburb of Detroit. He sees his home value go up, he hears politicians promise to cut his taxes, and for a minute he feels secure. But he also sees the robots replacing his buddies and hears the rumors of production shifting overseas. Michigan is trying to tax cut its way out of a fundamental economic crisis. It's a gamble that you won't notice the factory is closing until after you've signed the mortgage. This brings up a critical question. Is a guaranteed tax cut today worth more than the uncertainty of your entire industry tomorrow? Tell me your price in the comments. Number 5. Idaho. We leave the Rust Belt's ghosts behind and head for the mountains, chasing the echo of a recent gold rush. Idaho, specifically Boise, the poster child for the work-from-home fantasy. A few years ago, this was the promised land, a mecca for anyone with a laptop and a U-Haul fleeing California. Now it's a financial trap, and the state is trying to mute the screams with vague promises of property tax relief. The carnage is breathtaking. At the peak of the pandemic frenzy, out-of-state money poured in, driving prices into the stratosphere. From 2015 to 2025, Idaho saw the biggest spike in house prices in the entire nation, a staggering 156%. But the hangover is brutal. In Boise, home value growth plummeted from a peak of 41.3% in 2021 down to just 0.4% in 2025. Inventory is surging, up 13% year over year, and homes are taking 52% longer to sell. So, what's the real story here? The remote work dream is dying. Companies are dragging their employees back to the office, and the out-of-state paychecks that fueled this entire bubble are vanishing. What's left is a catastrophic affordability crisis. The median home price in Boise is over $500,000, while the median household income is around $84,350. A family needs to earn over $100,000 just to cover the bare minimum essentials. They sold you a Silicon Valley lifestyle at Idaho prices, except the prices became Silicon Valley prices, and now the jobs are going back to California. It's a bait and switch on a statewide scale. Idaho is a case study in the dangers of chasing a trend. The state is now stuck with thousands of people who bought at the peak, trapped in overpriced homes, their financial future held hostage by their employer's return-to-office policy. So here's the question I have for everyone who jumped on the remote work bandwagon. Was it worth it? Tell me honestly in the comments, what's the true cost of that freedom? Number 4. Louisiana. Driving south from the mountains, the air gets thick, humid, heavy. You've arrived in Louisiana, a place where the ground beneath your feet is literally sinking. Here, the state legislature is pushing tax credits and reforms aimed at easing the property tax burden. It's a joke, a sick, twisted joke. They're offering you a $5 coupon for a dinner party on the Titanic. The problem in Louisiana isn't the property tax. The state already has the 6th lowest effective property tax rate in the country at just 0.55%. The real problem is that your house has become financially untenable. It is an asset you cannot afford to protect. The average annual home insurance cost in Louisiana is a crushing $4,033, which is 44% higher than the national average. In the highest risk zip codes, that number can skyrocket. Why? One word: hurricanes. The constant, repeated battering from storms has created a full-blown insurance apocalypse. At least 20 insurance companies have either gone broke or fled the state entirely since 2020. This mass exodus has left tens of thousands of homeowners scrambling for coverage. Imagine this. You get a letter from the state touting a new property tax credit that saves you a few $100. Later that day, you get another letter. It's from your insurance company. They're either doubling your premium or dropping your policy altogether, effective immediately. That tax cut just became the most expensive piece of paper you own. The state of Louisiana is trying to solve a climate change and insurance crisis with a tax policy band-aid. Your home isn't just at risk from rising water, it's at risk of becoming completely uninsurable at any price. So, I need to ask this: at what point does home ownership become hostage situation? How much of your paycheck are you willing to forfeit to an insurance company for the privilege of living on ground zero? Number 3, Arizona. You pull out of the swamp and head west until the green turns to brown. Welcome to Arizona, the land of endless sun and, apparently, endless denial. The state is floating ideas for property tax caps, trying to convince you everything is fine. It is not fine. This is ground zero for a collision between reckless development and geological reality. Let's start with the market. The median listing price in Phoenix was $485,000 in August 2025, trending down 3% year over year. Homes are sitting on the market for an average of 63 days compared to 52 days last year. Inventory is surging, with active listings up 25% since last year. This is the classic sign of a market hitting the brakes hard. But the real villain here isn't mortgage rates, it's water, or the lack thereof. Arizona gets about 40% of its water from groundwater sources, and decades of overuse have put the state in a perilous position. The situation is so dire that the governor was forced to announce that Arizona will not approve new housing construction in parts of Phoenix that rely solely on groundwater. State officials project a groundwater shortfall of nearly 4.9 million acre-feet over the next 100 years. They sold a fantasy of a desert oasis, and the well is literally running dry. Imagine buying your dream home in a suburb like Buckeye, only to find out the state has ruled there isn't a guaranteed water supply for the future of your community. The politicians are offering a tax cut, which is like offering a drowning man a lifetime supply of sand. Arizona is a slow-motion catastrophe. The foundation of the entire housing market, the very resource that makes life possible here, is disappearing. So let me ask you this, and I want you to think about it. What is the single point of failure in your town? What's the one resource that, if it vanished, would render your home and community worthless overnight? Number 2, Texas. You leave the desert behind, crossing into a land of pure, unfiltered confidence, Texas, where everything is bigger. The hats, the steak, and especially the property tax bills. The outrage got so loud that politicians passed a gigantic $18 billion property tax cut package. They hailed it as the biggest tax cut in Texas history. A monumental gift to the homeowner. It's not a gift. It is a battlefield promotion right before a suicide mission. They're trying to plug a dam with a bucket of spackle. The real crisis here isn't just the taxes. It's the entire financial structure of homeownership, which is collapsing under its own weight. Even with reforms, Texas still has one of the highest property tax rates in the nation. That's the first punch. The second punch is the insurance bill. The state has the second highest average homeowners insurance premiums in the United States, averaging a brutal $4,585 a year, more than double the national average. Meanwhile, the market itself is bleeding out. Statewide, about 44% of active listings have already had a price cut. In Austin, the poster child of the Texas bubble, the median listing price was down almost 9% year over year. Homes are sitting on the market for 78 days, significantly longer than last year. In Dallas, the number of active listings is up by over 22% compared to last year. This is the Texas two-step of financial ruin. A crushing tax bill and an insurance payment so volatile it can double after a single hailstorm. The tax cut is designed to make you ignore the fact that your home is becoming an uninsurable, unsellable liability. Texas didn't build a housing market, it built a casino, and the house always wins. So, here is the question for everyone. What is the true carrying cost of your home? Forget the mortgage. Add up the taxes, the insurance, the special assessments. How much does it really cost you just to stand still? Post the number.
Number 1. Florida. And so we've arrived. The end of the road. Ground zero. Florida. The state where Governor DeSantis is talking about radically slashing or even eliminating homestead property taxes via a 2026 ballot measure. A final, desperate act of financial juggling on the edge of a cliff. This isn't a tax cut, it's a last meal. Because in Florida, the bubble popping isn't the story. It is the final chapter in a much darker novel. Let's start with the crash. In Cape Coral, the median home price has plummeted, down between 7 and 11% year over year. Cape Coral has a record surplus of over 10,000 housing units, a 525% jump since 2022. More than half of all listings in the city have had a price cut. Statewide, inventory is up 24.2% over last year. In Miami, the median listing price was down 3.8% year over year, and homes are lingering on the market for 90 days. But that's just the beginning of the perfect storm. The real killer, the 1-2-3 punch that makes Florida the undisputed champion of risk, is this. First, the insurance apocalypse. The average annual home insurance premium in Florida is projected to hit a soul-crushing $15,460 by the end of 2025. Second, the climate reality. Sea level rise is projected to put 1 million Florida properties underwater, wiping out a combined assessed value of $619 billion this century. And third, the financial collapse. The state's insurer of last resort, Citizens, still holds nearly 770,000 policies, a financial time bomb waiting for the next big storm. Florida is in a state of managed demolition. The politicians will offer tax cuts to keep the music playing, hoping you don't notice the ship is sinking, the lifeboats are already gone, and the only thing left to do is drown. And this brings us to the final, most important question of this entire journey. When does a home stop being an asset and start being a liability you can't give away?
So there you have it, 10 states, 10 warnings. The story's always the same. They offer you a small tax cut today to distract you from the financial catastrophe coming tomorrow, the insurance crisis, the water shortages, the economic rot. Don't let them play you for a fool. This isn't a game. It is your financial survival. Do your own research. Trust the numbers, not the promises. So I'll leave you with one final question. What is the biggest lie politicians are telling homeowners in your state? Let me know in the comments.